All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order, and I do apologize for the lateness in the beginning time of this meeting. It's my responsibility and my fault. I thought the meeting was at a different time. So I thank you all for your patience. And saying that, I'm going to say a welcome to the fiscal year 2022 budget discussion meetings. This is the Ways and Means Committee of the Greenfield City Council. We are coming to you via WebEx conferencing system. It's April 14th, 2021, and this meeting is called to order at 5:51. This meeting is being recorded and videotaped by Ways and Means Committee. And hang on here just a second. I'm sorry. There we go again. By the Ways and Means Committee and GCTV 15. If any other persons present are doing the same, you must notify the chairperson at this time. Anybody wish that statement? Okay. All right. Can we have a roll call? Councillor Bottomley, would you help with this, please?
Yes, definitely. Okay, Chairperson Forgy.
Yes, I'm here.
Councillor Jarvis.
Here.
Councillor DeSorger.
Here.
Councillor Mayo.
Here.
And I'm Councillor Bottomley, present.
Excellent. We have a quorum. There is I think it's item 5. I think it is, where we are going to suspend the normal procedural rules in favor of having our last speaker regarding our capital project before we conduct any other business this evening. And that would be our Director of DPW, Marlo Warner. And Marlo, we welcome you. We're interested in hearing what you want us to know about your requests for capital projects. And I'm going to ask you, please, if you'd start off with a presentation.
Make a motion.
I'm sorry.
You have to do a motion.
You're right.
And another. Yep.
Okay.
I make a motion that we suspend the rules of procedure according to Procedure 8, order of suspension of business.
Second, Mayo.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So signify. Thank you. It's unanimous. Okay, Marlo, we're going to ask you, take it away, and we look forward to hearing what you have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
So thank you for having me here tonight to present my FY22 capital requests. Madam Chair, I have 3 separate budgets that I have requests in, the general side, the water and the sewer. Would you like me to proceed with just the general then questions or present all 3? How would you like me to proceed?
I will open that up to the committee. What would you like to know? Anybody have any ideas on how to proceed?
I just go straight through it.
Okay, go right ahead. That's a great idea. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So again, thank you for having me. I think I'll start with our largest project, the Sanderson Street reconstruction. Noted that is split through 3 ways for the sewer repairs and replacement, the water main replacement, and the roadway, sidewalks, and ADA compliance. So when I get to water and sewer, I'll hit up on that structure. But the project covers the entire length of Sanderson Street, from Federal Street all the way to the tennis courts east of High Street. And again, the general side, we have some sidewalk east of High Street. They're in very poor condition. The grades are off. Those need to be properly reconstructed in order to do the road work and repave that. There's going to be some sub-base replacement of the roadway. There's some clay areas and unstable soils, and also some curbing replacement and a final pave when we're done. So that would cover the general budget side of that project. The cost of that is $492,687 for that project. Oh, the highway fund, the next one, I skipped chapter 90 to begin with because I combined it with the highway fund request. Before you, there's a request of $100,000 to add to our chapter 90 grant that we get every year. And as we all know, our roads have fallen behind. Our chapter 90 has been stuck at $635,000 for quite a few years, and we all know how costs have been going up. So our grant money just doesn't go as far as it used to go, and it's beginning to obviously show in our roads. So the last few years, I've been requesting some additional funds to try and at least keep up with the deterioration we have going on. I made a little adjustment to this. The original request is $200,000 in the packet that I sent out. We had to take a few roads off, Bascom Road, Scout Road. We were able to add on Peabody Lane. And there's another list of roads, and I'll save that if you have questions later. But it'll be two separate contracts. We're doing the milling and paving, and the extra $100,000 will be a separate contract for what we call shimming and rubber chip seal. So that's kind of two projects in one there. Crushing gravel. We do this approximately every 10 years. Every project, we excavate almost every day of the week in one division or the other. We have spoils, we have concrete, blacktop, excess gravel. You know, when we dig our trenches and replace pipes, it all goes to a stockpile off Leiden Road. And for quite a few years, we take and we crush that gravel, blend it all together, or that, I should say, that byproduct, blend it all together, and we make new gravel with it. It's a very large savings to the city and all our budgets, water, sewer, and general. If we were to purchase gravel, it would probably cost us a minimum of a couple $1,000s a week as we excavate and prep sidewalks and so on and so forth when we do that work. So we have approximately 6,000 yards we want to crush. We think $90,000 will get us there. That could give us up to 10 years of supply of gravel. And not only that, it's the green thing to do. We're reusing something. We'll run out of space where we put all our overburdens. So it's a pretty good program. It saves a lot of money for the city. So sidewalk replacement, before you have a request of $100,000. I don't think it's any secret that we know that we've struggled for years with our sidewalks. And a quick note, we were able to spend all but $10,000 of last year's appropriation in-house. We did quite a bit of ADA repairs and quite a bit of new sidewalk with that money with in-house crews. So that worked out well. So this $100,000, it replaces, it's at the end of the life cycle, which we have many. It addresses a lot of ADA compliance issues, and so on and so forth. So this here, I actually sent along in my capital packet the complete list of overlaid sidewalks that need replacing and concrete walks. So hopefully you got to see that information. We got a long ways to go to. I want to add here too, the planning department working with Alan, our engineering department, we're able to establish a grant, a complete streets grant, which is going to redo and connect sidewalks in the area of the high school, Chapman Street, the high school, Vernon Street area. So we're going to have quite a bit of sidewalk work going on. The bid, it gets open tomorrow for the new sidewalks all the way from Coleraine Street to the college. That was another grant that Eric and Alan had worked together on. So coupled with the 100,000 here, you're going to see a lot of activity on sidewalks this summer, which is really good, and quite a sum of money in grants for the city. So that's a lot of good work by Eric. Eric and the planning department does a great job. So I think the last general I have is actually central maintenance, which we all know. I think we recall last fall I was given $21,000 to repair a boiler. It's in disarray. It ended up being the boiler was in complete disrepair, and our very skilled mechanics were able to replace the boiler with a brand new one for that $23,000. I took the other $2,000 out of my budget. So what goes along with that is we have a new boiler, but the traps throughout the whole building deteriorated. They need to be replaced. That's part of this capital request. And then just to hit on the mini split heat pumps, I'm not sure how many of you have been in the DPW yard, but the office areas sit in the middle of the building. It's not in the front or back or near windows. And we actually have window air conditioners in the offices for the summer, which they actually discharge into the mechanic shop and the other offices. It's been a concern for quite a few years. Obviously, we got air quality issues going on with that, or it's 95 degrees in there. So this appropriation here is going to put the heat pump system in, like you see at the town hall that got installed a couple of years ago. From the city, I think I don't have them, but it will be significant. Okay, that's the sewer fund. I'm asking for an appropriation of $91,000 for wastewater upgrades. This is for just back to the 80s. It's hard to get parts. I would say in the wastewater world, we've actually found parts on eBay on some of our stuff. You just can't buy. This is the main control panel that generates the electricity to fill the water treatment, and they have to see panels off. Did you lose me?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, where did you lose me?
Just go back to your last part.
The wastewater treatment plant?
Yes, please.
Did you hear the main breaker panel?
No, we did not hear that.
Okay, my apologies. So I've had
No, it's the system breaking up. It's the system breaking up.
Yeah, I had a few issues today with my computer. I don't know if it's me either. So just point at me if I get rambling, you can't hear me. So,
Okay.
So this request is for $91,000. It's going to be a project that's going to be completed in-house. This is only parts and materials for the wastewater treatment plant. The central maintenance electricians are going to on and replace the main breaker. It's pretty impressive when you look at commercial and industrial grade electrical compared to the panel at home. So I think hopefully the pictures helped help you see how integrated and how intricate it is. So it's quite a project. And it's definitely turning into a safety type hazard. So I've requested the $91,000 for that. So the other sewer request is the sewer portion, the sewer portion of Sanderson Street. We have known broken pipes, collapsing pipes, cracked pipes, which, yes, of course, you've heard me say I feel like a broken record for 3 years, but we have I issues. We have failed drain system, and the portion of this project is $574,205. We'll replace 12 access structures today. They were once called manholes, but it is not the right thing to say anymore. So we'll be repairing the failed lines and replacing. And we're going to be looking forward to doing a lot of lining of our old pipes. We do spot repairs, and we actually put a pipe inside a pipe. It's quite the technique and quite the operation. So that project there, from the sewer perspective, will take care of many issues that we've been talking about for 3 or 4 years now. Fund. I have a project here for $25,000. It's a rate study, asset management, emergency response plan. So I put this all together. There was a sanitary survey done on Greenfield's water system back in August. DEP comes out and surveys our whole system, goes through everything, brings us up to speed on up and coming changes. As part of the report, they requested that the city do a third-party water rate study. We all know about our water rates, and the asset management. And what goes along with that is it'll take all our assets, our operating budget. It'll help us form a 10-year capital and put it all together and project our water rates, what they should be increased from year to year. It'll be a living document. So it's been requested we do that. So it doesn't make any sense to do a water rate study without doing the sewer too. They go hand in hand. I have built that into my operating budget, which we can talk about probably next week, but the same for that. Our emergency response plans need to be updated. It's kind of the small monies part of this project. And it's going to take a group effort, accounting. It's going to take the DPW engineering. It's going to take quite a few of us to work with Ty and Bond, I believe, will be doing the work to get that done. And I might want to note that this will be taken out of retained earnings. There's no borrowing on this project or retained earnings. Excuse me, our water retained earnings. So I also have another request for a piece of equipment here in the water department. It's $200,000 to replace a water dump truck paid out of water retained earning. A few of our dump trucks are not only beyond the life cycle, you know, we talk about equipment and whatnot in the past, but it's getting to the point where it's hard to get parts for some of these vehicles. And this happens to be one of them. The vehicle that's being replaced suffers a lot of downtime. It's undependable. I generally see it in the shop during a snowstorm more than I do on the road. So I think that this would be a great replacement for that truck. This also is coming out of retained earnings, no borrowing, out of water retained earnings. And the last one is the last piece of the Sanderson Street reconstruction. It's $469,525. It's replacing a 102-year-old water main that's undersized in today's standards. I believe it's a 6-inch cast iron main there. We need to upgrade it to an 8-inch knuckle iron. And I think to pull the three pieces of this project together is where this street is located and what it services. If you start over by the mountain, it services Beacon Field, the tennis courts. You come west, we have the hospital. We have a few residential homes. We have a very large medical building with medical offices. We have the backside of the old Greenfield Tap and Die. And we also have city offices at Sanderson Street and the middle school. So the road is deteriorating. The infrastructure underneath is very old. It's quite a nice project. And honestly, it's time to do the upgrades on this street. So this project will be borrow under the water piece. So if I went too fast or you have any questions, I hit some of the points. I thought that the mayor did a great job last week of segueing. So, Mayor, she's got the projects down.
Okay, I'm opening it up to Ways and Means. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask our Director of DPW, please feel free to do that at this time. Before you do, I just want to thank you, Marlo. You know, for a lot of years, we've both been doing budgets.
Hello.
And part of the issue is that sometimes we never get to hear about the completion of the projects. So I, for one, would like to thank you and DPW for the work that you do and the projects that are completed, and the mayor and the administrative folks in the city that keep our city well and healthy. You do a great job. with what we give you, and you use it in a timely basis, which is really important. It allows us to move forward. If you want to share any of your experiences with us, Marlo, that would be fine. If not, it's a kudos, and we appreciate it very much. I'll open it up to questions. Really? We're that good?
Could you tell me a little bit more about
I
when the DEP comes out?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. That kind of broke up.
Is it? Do you want us to raise our hand or just ask?
Oh, no, just ask. I think we're good.
Could you describe a little bit more what happens when the DEP comes out to look at the water? How do they decide where to look and what do they do?
Is everybody
Not sure he heard you.
okay?
He's
Marlo,
having
can you hear us?
having bandwidth
I can
issues.
hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Ginny, go ahead and ask your question again.
Could you describe in a little bit more detail what happens when DEP comes out and how they decide where to look and what they do?
I think we lost him again.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Marlo, maybe if you turn off your video, it might save your bandwidth.
Turn off your video, Marlo.
Yeah. Have it off. Can you hear me now?
Yes. No.
How about now?
Yes.
Jenny, I hate to ask you for the question again, but it was broke.
That's okay. I just asked if you could describe a little bit more what happens when DEP comes out, what they do, and how they decide where to check. Look.
So DEP, EPA get system chemical use. We take samples every day. Have a so when they come out, the sanitary survey is done every 2 years. They have all our infrastructure, and we basically go around and they do an inspection. To make sure we're
Can't hear. Marlo, we're having trouble hearing you again.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, did you hear any?
Not really, no.
I can try and call in. I'm showing full bandwidth here, so I'm not sure.
You're fine now.
Yeah, try it again.
Yeah, you
Okay.
sound good now.
Is it- So I can try again.
Yeah.
Give it another shot, and then we'll go to plan B.
Okay. So DEP does a sanitary survey every 2 years, both in water and sewer. Am I there?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
They have on record all our infrastructure because of our to them and everything. When they come out, they hit all our update on and things that are
Everyone
coming
should
down
be
the road,
off
or
video.
anything else they find without a complaint.
Yeah.
So it's a regular thing every 2 years.
Okay, I think I got most of that. That was fine. Thank you.
Is there any follow-up? Okay, anybody else have questions for Marlo?
I did have a question.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay, go ahead, John.
Yeah, I was just wondering, is there a inventory of the sidewalk repairs or a sort of master list, or do you have any idea of the total cost of fixing most of our repair site to repair the sidewalks in the city?
Yes, we actually have a rating system of 1 through 5. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
And I believe I sent along my capital package our of concrete walks that need to be replaced and what kind of condition they were in with that rating system. We can do that for starters.
Sorry, I'm losing you.
Chris, I can help, and I think you can hear me better.
Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
I will say that a total cost, no. If I have what Marlo's trying to explain to you is that the way they determine what sidewalks get done has to do with one, a rating. So the rating is 1 through 5. So 1 being excellent. Why would you repair an excellent sidewalk? But whatever. To 5, which is very poor. So on his sidewalk reconstruction program, which as he said, I think may have been sent to you in your packet, but I understand you have been getting all kinds of information from every department. There are, he starts with those projects that begin with the number 5 and goes down from there. So everything on his project list for this year is either a 5 or a 4. That is also in conjunction with where they are doing, and I hope I have this right, at some point he may be able to correct me if I don't, where they are doing paving. So it would make no sense to repair a sidewalk and then have to come along whoever call-in user 3 is. If that's you, Marlo, then you need to get off your video, your other call. Or else we're gonna...
Okay, so that I have to log out
of your
Video.
video call.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry about that.
I'll let Marlo continue. I stopped with explaining the numbers 1 through 5 and how important it is to start with those sidewalks that are going to be impacted by your paving program. Take it away, Marlo.
Terrific, Mayor. So yes,
It's a team effort.
we have we have multiple lists for the sidewalk replacements. And sometimes when we need to pave a road, and I'm just using this as an example, sometimes a rated 3 sidewalk has to get a higher priority if we're going to pave a road and there's no grass belt between the sidewalk and the road. And if it's in poor condition, we need to replace the walk before we pave the road. The reason being is we pave the road and then we go in and replace the walk, we're breaking up the brand new blacktop road on the edges, which is not good for the final mat of a blacktop road. It actually takes many years of service life out of a paving job. So, and like I said, we have lists. I have not, Councilor Bottomley, I have not added up the total list. I don't even dare give you a number. I can tell you it's over $1 million to bring us back into anywhere near code. Every sidewalk we touch, every slab we remove, we try and address ADA, CDA, ADA issues along the way. So that's constantly on our mind. So there's many factors that go into replacing the sidewalks.
Thank you. That's excellent. I guess my biggest point I was trying to get at was, is $100,000 a lot or a little? I mean, if we have $2 million worth of sidewalks that need to be replaced, then 100,000 isn't very much. So, you know, I mean, I'm just trying to get a sense, like, is it going to take 20 years to replace sidewalks that haven't been touched in many, many decades? Or, so that I was just trying to get an overall sense. You know.
Yeah, the other piece of it is, I mean, you're absolutely correct. It could take that long. But we also, with the highway department, we also try and within the operating budget, try and replace incorrect ADA issues throughout the year with my operating budget to boot. So we do put a little more funding and a little more effort into the sidewalks as we go, other than the capital appropriation.
I just want to say thank you. I've noticed the flashing lights and the ADA, the new ramps on the corners. That's great.
Yes, thank you. All 4 of those intersections had code issues with ADA, so we're able to correct them while installing that new hardware. So it worked out well.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay, are
Georgie?
there any more questions? If there are not, I'm going to thank our director for being with us this evening and helping us to understand the requests for capital. Last call. Anybody want to ask our director any more questions about DPW?
More. I have one last one.
Okay.
Are you at all asked by any other department to help them with their capital project if it has anything to do with like paving?
Not recently, but yes, our engineering department has always offered assistance when needed, when we can fit it in. And I think we've offered inspection services in the past.
Thank you. You're doing a great job. Thank you very much.
Councilor Forgy?
Thank you.
Yes.
It's the mayor.
Go ahead, Mayor.
Just to add a little bit of information to Councilor Bottomley's question, I'm not sure if Marlo has this in front of him, but I just want to let, it sounds like 20 years is a long time, and it is. But just so you have an idea of the magnitude of what we're talking about at this point in time, and it could go up, it probably won't go down. A sidewalk is $150 a square yard. So think about your sidewalks. So there are certain streets, I'm just going to throw out a couple of them, where the number to repair them is astronomical. Keep in mind your capital budget has to stay in line in the 8 to 10%, and there are many projects that we have for the next 5 years. So, for instance, if you were, I'll pick Councilor Bottomley Street. If you were to take Haywood Street, which is a 4 to 5, and I know that street well, that's $143,850 right there. If you were to say Pond Street, that's $126,900 right there. Other streets are in that $100,000 range. The only street that's under $100,000 that hasn't been addressed and won't be addressed this year is Walnut Street at $84,000 and Park Street at $71,000. So those are just large numbers. They are what they are. So Marlo has an excellent handle on what needs to be done in the moment. And I just want everybody to know it's well over $1 million.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, everybody, we all set?
Director Morrow, Director Morrow, I have a quick question.
Okay, go ahead.
This is just an example of, do you, when you did this sidewalks on Main Street, with the brick replacement and the sidewalk repair, and what number would you give that of the condition that was in before you started repairing that?
The brickwork was quickly deteriorating. With all the foot traffic on Main Street and the deteriorating bricks, we were down there constantly replacing bricks or putting a little blacktop in. That was definitely approaching the 5 category in most areas. Some areas it was okay, but most areas it was between a 4 and a 5.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'm going to add my thanks. Everybody's all set. Looks like everybody's okay. So, Director Warner, thank you so much for being with us this evening. And we'll see you again during the operating budget season.
Sure thing. Thank you very much for having me. I apologize for the bandwidth issue. I don't normally have that issue, but like I said, it's been a weird day with the computer, but I thank you for the time and your support.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay,
Have a good night.
Oh, thank you. All right, so this is the part of the program where we begin our deliberations on the mayor's proposed capital budget. We have a number of agenda items here. I am not really sure how we should approach this, and so I'd like some feedback from the committee. Would you like us to go right down the list and vote if it's not, or would you like to discuss what we have been talking about generally? And we can just use the list to finalize voting pieces. So I'm at your disposal, whichever you think is best.
I think
Please
it'd
just
be
let me
easier.
know.
I think
I'm
Chris
sorry,
would be
Councilor
easier if we
Jarvis.
just yeah, it's Chris. I think it would be just easier if we excuse me, this is Ed. If we just go down the list and we take them one by one and we discuss them and we vote on them, I think it'll be easier to keep track of them that way. We won't
Okay, so
we won't
I
skip
agree.
over something.
okay, you may not see me because I can't split my screen correctly, so I will begin by reading the motions. And the first motion we have is authorize 5 to 7 year lease to procure an ambulance not to exceed a financed piece of $295,000. Is there a second to that motion?
Second, DeSorga.
Second.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Second by DeSorga. Open it up for discussion. Is there, first of all, any discussion at all? And please just jump in. You don't have to raise your hands as long as you're respectful of everybody else. That's fine. Anybody want to start us off?
I'm in favor of that because it was needed and it was going to be paid for itself by the ambulance, by people using it.
Yeah, me too.
Anybody?
I'm on board with Jeannie. This is non-borrowing issue. It comes out of the revolving account from the monies collected for transports. That's the way that that fund was set up. That revolving account was set up to pay for items such as this, and medical supplies, and so on and so on, to run that program so it wouldn't have any costs directly to the taxpayers. So I don't see a problem with this either.
I agree. I think this is a smart move for City of Greenfield to do that.
Yep.
Okay, it looks like we're ready to vote on this one. So all in favor, please indicate by saying aye or raising your hand. Or both.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. It's unanimous. So thank you very much. Next item on the budget, appropriate $90,000 from Fund 8402 Capital Stabilization for DPW gravel crushing costs. May I have a second to that motion, please?
Second.
Second, Mayo.
Okay, anybody have issues, questions, debate? Anybody want to weigh in on the gravel?
I'm good with, I think this is a good idea.
Okay, everybody's in agreement then. I will ask for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Indicate.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, it carries. Thank you. The next item is appropriate $35,000 from Fund 8402 Capitalization Stabilization for DPW Yard HVAC upgrades. May I have a second, please?
Second, DeSorger.
Any discussion?
No, I just have to say, being in that building quite a bit when I was the deputy chief for visiting the maintenance department and those guys, that it makes sense to be doing this. I mean, it's antiquated. It's you don't want air conditioners in windows, and yeah, these guys deserve a decent place to work out of.
Okay, all in favor? Indicate aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, it carries. Next item on the agenda is appropriate $100,000 for a sidewalk replacement program. Can I have a second, please?
Second, Mayo.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Can never be enough money for sidewalks.
I agree. I'm really pleased we're able to fill the request this year. I hope we are anyway. Okay. All in favor, please indicate aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Thank you. Appropriate $100,000 for the highway road program. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I didn't hear the question.
We are voting.
It broke up on me.
Okay, we are voting on the motion to appropriate $100,000 from the highway road program. We have a second. If there's any discussion.
Okay.
Okay, hearing none. All in favor, please indicate aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, the motion carries. Appropriate $145,000 for equipment and related costs to GSET, GECT, expansion and customer installation. I need a second, please.
Second, DeSorger.
Second, Mayo.
Okay. Any discussion on this?
No, I just like to point out, Chris, that again, this isn't a borrowing. It'll be paid back through their fund. So people listening don't think that we're just rubber stamping this as we're going along.
There are funding sources in place that
Yeah.
we're happy to see. Yep, agreed. Okay, all those in favor, please indicate aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries. Appropriate $492,687 for the reconstruction of Sanderson Street. I need a second.
Second, Mayo.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I think this is
Long
vital.
overdue.
Yep.
Okay. Ginny?
Vital, and a lot of vital buildings right along there will save us money in the long run.
Okay. If we're ready to vote, all those in favor, please indicate aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Appropriate $350,000 for the design and construction of a city skate park. I need a second, please.
Second
Mayo.
disorder.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
I know that that's not going to quite be enough. I think that they needed more for that. There's been overwhelming support for it. I am going to be a yes on that. I do want any extra, if we get any CD, that's going to be in an opportunity zone. Let's sort of somehow, with if there's any verbiage about the CDBG funding. If anybody else has any thoughts on that, but I'm in favor.
Is Liz with us this evening, I believe?
Yes.
Okay. Liz, there was some discussion at the meeting where Christy presented this capital piece, and it involved the small city block grant and the issuance of money to pay for the grant match that the city needs to come up with. I realize the timing is off, but has there been any more information in regard to whether or not we would be able to use the block grant money to use that to match the grant? So in other words, the borrowing would be a temporary one until we could use CDBG money to pay back the grant.
They're shifting issues here. I can let the mayor speak, but let's just say it may be doable, but there's more involved than when it can happen. I did have Christy look into the possibility of she can speak to that with Park on CDBG actually being the match. But if you, it also, I'll let the mayor speak after this, but if you want the CDBG to be additional money, then you may want to change the language. If you want it to take part of the match, then you wouldn't change the language.
Okay, wait a minute. Clarification.
All right. Well, first, I think both Christy and the mayor have pieces of this that we should hear, and then we can talk more on that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Hello, shall I go? Councilor
Right
Gordon?
ahead, Christy. That's fine.
So I did, as Liz had spoke, I did speak to the grant coordinator, and she said that however we come up with our funds is okay as long as it's not state to state grants. It can be federal and state grants, as Liz had thought was the case when we met, whenever we met before. I can't remember when it was. So does that clarify?
It cannot be a state to state match.
Correct.
So the so the block grant funds are federal.
Federal, correct. Yep.
And,
Okay.
But
and
again,
is it my understanding that money has already been raised privately for this, towards this, like $20,000?
correct. And we would use that for whatever shortage we may have, whether it be for site amenities that may not be included in the grant, perhaps trees, greenery, that kind of stuff. whatever the grant may not cover, we'll have that flexibility. And I believe it's 23,000, Doug. Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Sure.
More the merrier.
Mayor, did you want to add?
I think Christy covered it well, as did Liz. I was going to add, there is the park grant that she's applying for. We hope we get it. Those things are never 100%, so CDBG can certainly help us. I believe, as Liz said, the order is written fairly loosely so that I can take advantage, or the city can, of any and all grants that might be out there. But there may be, as Liz has said, some restrictions, and as Christy has said. So I just wanted to make everyone understand that in addition to the private fundraising, and that 23,000 could grow to another 20,000 with the ample effort. We just need to know that we are in place to have a skate park, and then those wonderful parents out there and other community members can get together and decide how to raise additional money. So I'm just going to defer back to Liz to say, is the language written appropriately? But no, city councilors, that the effort is such that we want to find as many funding sources to make up the difference as we possibly can.
Christy, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that everyone's on the same page, and that, as I said at the last meeting, that as a city, we need to have the city council authorize the entire cost of the project, and it's a reimbursement. So that's where we can match, use the block grant money if we need to use this 23,000, or as I said before, I'm going to apply for the Tony Hawk Foundation grant. Once we have commitment, then it's easier to move forward and ask for more donations and fundraising.
So my understanding, this is the piece that you're asking for as a capital expenditure is only part of what the council is going to be asked to move forward on.
So the entire project, what did I tell you? It was like 750, I think. I don't have that folder right in front of me.
Right.
And so the max that the city of Greenfield can receive is 400,000. So when we put the 350 that you guys are putting forward plus the 700, if we get that full amount, and that's how we would cover the project. But again, it's a reimbursement grant. So I just want to make that clear.
Okay. Liz, I guess I have another question for you. So what we're voting on tonight, let me just look at this for 1 second, if I may, is $350,000, but we're not voting on the whole project cost?
That's
correct.
That's correct. We, until we have the grant, and even at that, we may or may not have to vote the entire amount. It depends on the nature of the grant. But I'll go back to like MSBA projects that you're familiar with the school. Okay, you'll vote the whole project and then rescind the grant when you receive it. Rescind the grant portion when you are all said and done and received the reimbursement. That may be the case. And yet it may also be that CDBG can cover it and you're not going to need another authorization. So I think this gets the ball rolling.
What happens if the grant does not come through for the skate park? What happens to the authority?
Well, you can rescind it if we can't do it.
Well, I don't know as if the council can rescind it. I think the mayor has to rescind it. Is that correct?
No, we put a order forward for you to rescind.
Okay, for the council to rescind.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Or
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Or if we are not successful, then I would hope that we would still have it so that it's there when we apply again next year or use for another grant match.
Okay.
If we weren't successful, I'm hopeful that we will be. As Barb said, I do have a good track record, but I don't want to jeopardize that.
Okay. Does anybody else want to comment? I do want to make some more comments, but I feel that it should be time for somebody else to make a few comments. Anybody? Well, okay then. So this has been ongoing since I took office, which was a long time ago, 20 years ago. And I understand the need for it. As they say, however, timing is everything. And I am struggling, to be very honest with everybody, with the amount of money that is being asked for this project while people are struggling to pay taxes and put food on their table. That doesn't mean I'm opposed to the project. That's why I was asking about the possibility of the small city block grant funds, because I feel that that could be a win-win situation for people in Greenfield and for the taxpayers without adding to an additional borrowing piece. We are heavily borrowed already. So just to give you my background thoughts and my rationale on it, it seems to me that that small city piece would be critically important. And the more information we would have on that coming out to council floor, the better I think I would like it, because it is totally up to the city council, bottom line, to vote on this capital item. I am not going to vote in favor of it at this time. Is anybody else interested in comment? If not, I'll call for the vote. Doug, go ahead, please.
If as long as there's a way out to back out of this, which it sounds like to me like there is, and we don't have the money, and we're not hooked into it, and there's a way, and we can't raise the money. As long as there's a way out, I don't have any problem with at least trying, because this is long been requested. If we can't do it, we can't do it, and there's a way out, then fine, we'll take the way out. But I'd rather continue going forward and at least send a message to the people that have been making this request for at least 20 years that the city.
Having trouble hearing you, Doug. You're breaking up.
Okay. Okay, hold on. Okay,
You're good now.
Okay. Well, anyway, I just feel that it would be a shame that if that the people who have been asking for this project for 20 years, that we don't at least try and go forward without. There's no way that, I mean, there's a way to back out of this, and we can take that if we need to. So I think I'm going to vote yes for this because of the people that in my district have said yes, they want it. and the people for 20 years have wanted it. So as long as there is some sort of avenue that we can back out of this, I think it's okay.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Anybody else that would like to speak?
Yes. Yeah, I'd also like
Okay.
to speak in favor of this.
Thank you, John. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to speak in favor of this, kind of echoing what Councillor Mayo said, but also 20 years is a long time. And I feel like a lot of people have been working on this, which is kind of incredible that people have managed to stick by this that long. I think it speaks to some of its necessity in doing something for kids in town. So I'm voting yes for this.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? I do wish to add one more thing. I'm not opposed to the project. I'm not opposed to the concept or anything else. I am opposed to the borrowing coming from coming on the heels of a temporary fire station, and a library. That is why I am hopeful that the small city block grant piece can fall into place. And I'm hoping that more information will be available by the time it hits council floor, which will be in another week, basically. So if there is no more discussion on this, I know that gives you a lot of time, Liz. I know. If there's no more discussion on this, I'm going to ask that we vote. And if everybody could, I would do this. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Ginny, I can't see you. You're in favor of it too? Okay.
I'm a yes.
Okay. Any opposed? That would be me. Okay. So we have and any abstentions? Okay. So we have a 4-1 positive recommendation going out to council on the amount requested for the matching grant to the skateboard park. Okay, thank you all very much. On to the next one, if we can. Appropriate $50,000 for Beacon Park recreation upgrades. Can I have a second?
Second, Mayo.
Okay, is there anybody who want to discuss it?
I'm not going to be in favor of this. I think it's a great idea. And I think I'd actually really like it. But for the reasons that Councillor Forgy was saying, that this was hard. I think that well, two things. Number one, it wasn't the total cost, which that always bothers me. But number two, I thought I would pick one of these things to do this year. The skate park was something that has been in the works for a long time. I'm sorry to disappoint anyone, but it's a tough year all around for many reasons, and so I can't vote in favor of that this year.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Desorga. Anyone else would like to speak to this matter? This request, money request?
Chris, can you remind us what the money request is for?
Sure. It's to appropriate $50,000 for Beacon Park recreation upgrades. When we spoke with Christy at our last meeting, we were talking about a couple of bocce ball courts, and I think that there was two disability access water fountains being placed in the park as well. Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, Chris Ed. Yeah, I was kind of like on the bubble on this one, but the more I thought about it, if we're giving $350,000 for a matching grant for the kids to have something to do, I think maybe it's time to put some money in something for the seniors to do. So, which I'm sure the seniors will get more use out of the bocce courts. I wish it was more than one or two. One, well, I think Chrissy said it might be one, maybe depending on the funding and stuff like that. But I will be voting in favor of this. I think it's about time that that we give our seniors something to do, get them outside. Everybody's sick and tired of being cooped up in one little tiny spot. Hopefully, the pandemic passes and we get people out there, and maybe we add a little bit of exercise equipment in there later, or little stations for them at a different point. So I think it's a step forward. It's a tiny bit of money. It isn't like it's $500,000 that they're asking for. So yeah, I'll be in favor of this for those reasons.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak at this point?
I'm just going to say one more thing.
Oh, sure.
I'm not going to change it, but I can hear what you're saying. I just thought it's going to be 90,000. So that was a kind of a deal breaker for me. So I'm good. Bye.
Okay, thank you. All right, if there is no more discussion on this item, I will ask for a vote. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
I have three. Three, is that correct? Any opposed? Indicate by aye and raising your hand. Opposed?
No.
Any abstentions? Okay, if my count is correct, we have 3 in favor and 2 opposed. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. So it will go with a split recommendation to council floor. Thank you. Thank you, Christy, for your patience with us and everything else. We'll see you on council meeting floor. Okay, on to the next budget item. We are to appropriate $574,205 for sewer upgrades, repair, and replacement for construction of Sanderson Street. May I have a second?
Second, Jarvis.
Mayo.
Thank you very much. Is there any discussion on this? If there's no discussion, I will ask for people to vote. All in favor, please indicate by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, unanimous recommendation. Next item on our list here is to appropriate $469,525 for water upgrades, repair, and replacement for construction of Sanderson Street.
Second, Mayo.
Thank you very much. Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, all in favor, please indicate by raising your hand, saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. That's a unanimous recommendation that goes out to council. We have next item on the agenda is to appropriate $1,350,000 for police station update and reconfiguration. Is there a second?
Second, Mayo.
Okay, thank you. Discussion, everybody.
I'm having a hard time with this one because we have a couple of building projects. I think we said we were going to finish the things that we had to finish first. We don't know how long we're going to be on the fire station parking lot. And if it's more than the time frame, that's another $1 million. And other than, I didn't even finish hearing the breakdown of that, but I'm not leaning towards this. I'd like to hear what anybody else has to say.
Chris, if I may, Ed.
Yes, go ahead. Sure.
Okay, I got quite the list here, so I'll go over it and I'll try not to speak too fast. I'm going to be in favor of this for many and many reasons. Number one, it was brought out the safety issue. There's security and safety issues up there that are men and women of our police department shouldn't be exposed to. Number two, our dispatchers are working in a sardine box up there. That's a sweat box during the summer. This needs to be addressed. When I was deputy chief, it was being addressed. That was 7 years ago, and they're still in that sardine box. It's unacceptable for our employees to be working in that. Just as we felt that it was unacceptable for our firefighters to be working in the building and out of the building that they were working out of. These folks are going to be stuck in this building for another 15, maybe 20 years because we know how things work. I mean, when I halfway through my career at the fire department, it was talked about having a new fire station. Well, I'm retired 37 years after I started, they're getting a new fire station. So we see how things move. As far as the certification and accreditation, part of this, the accreditation speaks kudos to the Greenfield Police Department. It means that they're not only they're reviewing themselves and reviewing their policies and procedures, but the state and other agencies are reviewing those to make sure we're doing the right thing. We have an outcry of people saying that there's no overview, there's no policy changes. To keep our accreditation, that means that somebody's overlooking our policies and procedures, other than just our police force or even a publicly appointed board doing so. The server room, if they're going to have their upgrade, they need a bigger server room, which is off of the dispatch area. It's adequate, and anybody that knows anything about computer equipment, it needs to be regulated in a controlled area where it doesn't get too hot or too cold. It's a big investment for our equipment, and it needs to be controlled with the temperature. And I can see why Robbie didn't have the architect and design phase already done. It's $50,000 to $100,000 to have that done. You just can't go moving walls and not have that piece done ahead of time without an appropriation. He doesn't have that in his budget to take out and have that done ahead of time. With this, it'll look at the rest of the funding for the rest of the other 2 years and readjust them. And then he may have to pick and choose what he really needs to get done there. The Sally Port, I'll tell you, some people have a more secure garage in their house than that Sally Port. So
don't look at the garage.
and not to mention, quite a few years ago, like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, it'd be longer than that, almost 7 years ago, an air quality report came back and said the air quality in that was in desired need of reconfiguration and needs to be looked at. For those reasons, I just can't see having our police officers, the men and women, working out of there. Not to mention the other important part of this is that our female officers don't have their own locker room. That's ludicrous. That they don't have their own separate changing room. So I'm sorry if I was a little long-winded. I'm done with my list, so I didn't miss anything. So thank you for your time.
Is there someone who needs to mute? I'm just asking. Okay. Doug, would you go ahead, please?
I just want to speak to, there is one further thing that I'm going to be voting yes for this. And for the reasons why it was stated in today's newspaper that they're already working towards addressing some of the issues that people have been complaining about. And the police department, the article in today's Recorder addressed a lot of the issues that people have been complaining about, or the residents have been complaining about, or want, and that they're already taking care of that. So I think that goes a long ways towards the credibility and accountability, and that's what I believe. I have no reason not to believe the chief. I spoke with the chief this morning. He basically told me that you know, these are the things that they're working on. These are the things that he's heard from residents in the city of Greenfield, and he's addressing it. So there's nothing in him than what what he's already doing. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Doug. Go ahead, John.
I want to make clear, the only concerns I have are that we're doing 3 major building projects, and we don't even have a property secured yet for the fire station. So I feel like we're talking about millions of dollars, and we're talking about millions of dollars because the police station can't be done in sort of a piecemeal fashion. It's a huge project. I think every department deserves the right to have a good infrastructure and good equipment, but I feel really uncomfortable doing it all in 1 year, and especially when there's so much uncertainty. But in the terms of millions of dollars, that just makes me really nervous. That's my only comment.
If I may ask a question of Liz. While the Ways and Means Committee are debating, is it legal, is it appropriate for this committee to discuss more money or less money being added into these line items? Does that take an amendment in Ways and Means? Does it take amendment on council floor? Is there a mechanism that you might be able to help us on here?
I'll just explain that you cannot do anything. All financial orders start with the mayor.
I can't hear you, Liz. You're breaking up again. Here we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, thank you.
All financial orders start with the mayor.
Okay.
So you cannot increase. You may decrease. And this is true whether we're talking budget, whether we're talking capital. However, in many instances, the capital, it gets to a point where, is it even reasonable to do what you're requesting with less money, you know? So I think you have to get more input on capital versus budget per se, you know? So yeah, that's the methodology. Council can reduce something with an amendment voted at city council, but you cannot increase.
Okay, because what concerns me is if we had for instance, a lesser amount being recommended that would garner a unanimous support or something like that, is it appropriate for us to go ahead and suggest a lesser amount as a friendly amendment, and bring that out to council, and then council can debate?
I'm not going to question whether it's appropriate or not. You may do that. All I'm saying is I would at least speak with the chief again to fully understand what a reduction means, or the mayor.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that very much. Okay. Is there anybody else that would like to comment on this?
If I may, Chris, just real quick, I want counselors to keep in mind that the accreditation is up in a year and a half. So if we appropriate this money and the study gets done, or we don't appropriate this money and the study doesn't get done, they will lose their accreditation.
Right.
They worked years and years and years to get. This wasn't an easy process to go through. Even to be accredited as a fire chief solely is not. It's a couple year process of hard work and dedication. And to be one of 11 out of 360 something police departments that are fully accredited means a lot, and it speaks a lot for our community and how we want our policing to be. So I don't really feel that this is a lot of money. I don't I know that we had the library, we have the fire department going, but that's not the police department's fault that we couldn't do a public safety building. If we really want to lay blame where it should be 3 years ago or 4 years ago when we should have started a public safety building. I feel that we're going to be punishing these people if they lose their accreditation over $1.3 million. We're being told we can afford it by Liz and the mayor. It's very important to the police department, and I would really hate to see them lose their accreditation over this. They don't have 4 years, 5 years to work on it. They have the rest of this year and next year. So I just think it's really important. It speaks a lot for our community, and speaks that we as the council would be supporting our police officers in their quest to be accountable even more. So
Thank you.
that's where I am with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor, did you want to speak?
After I unmute, sorry. I just wanted to say I do believe, although I don't know that he's here, I believe Chief Haig is here if you wish to have him speak to this. I believe he is the call-in number here.
Okay.
I can't say
Chief,
that for
are you
sure. I
here?
just know he was intending to be on the meeting tonight. So,
Chief, are you here?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Is that you, Chief?
Okay, that's me.
Okay. Is there anything you would like to let us know?
Well, I mean, I can certainly answer any questions. I listened to Councilor Jarvis, and he's got it pretty well nailed down that we don't have a whole lot of windows. I mean, the reason I felt comfortable when the mayor and I sat down and talked about the number was I felt that number, not being the entire amount that I estimated that we would need, but I felt that was enough to deal at least with the upfront accreditation issues that we're going to face over the next year and a half. And then we would deal with the other issues after that. But I don't have, it's very true, I don't have $100,000 in my budget right now to hire somebody to come in and look at the entire building, because I feel that if we do hire somebody, they should give us the overall plan of the building, not just one element of what we're looking for. So I would hope that the architect would come in and give us what we need to do to do what we want for the building.
Chief, hold on just a moment. There is somebody
Okay.
on our line that needs to mute because we're listening to a lot of dishes rattle and things like that. So if you would be so kind as to mute yourself, that would be wonderful. We'd appreciate it. Go ahead, Chief.
So, I'd want a complete and overall plan done of what the entire building would need over that 3-year period of time. And then we would have to address in the first year, which would be obviously FY22, all the accreditation issues would have to be taken care of immediately, because those are the ones that we're going to be up for review again on after this upcoming year. We have 1 year from October. When this October comes, we're in our final year of accreditation. We start getting reviewed again. We'll be in self-assessment, and we have to be reviewed by the following October for our 3-year accreditation review. And we know that there's certain things that a couple of things either got overlooked, or we were able to say, look, we're going to deal with them in the future. Overlook our locked building because we're using a padlock right now as opposed to an actual locked door. Our Sally Port, we understand it's temporary by definition, but right now it's what we have, but we're going to take care of it. If we don't do that, we won't pass the reaccreditation. And the accreditation standards that we went after this time, the reason we were so aggressive with it is because we knew that the new accreditation standards were coming, and this was before police reform. And we knew that they were coming, so we wanted to make sure we got certified and accredited in that same year so we could work under the current accreditation guidelines. Those have changed. So we're going to have to change in year 3. We're going to have to make sure we're up to those standards as well. So there are just certain things in our building right now and outside of our building, security-wise, we already know will not get overlooked the next time. And that will be an issue for us. And I think that we have worked exceptionally hard, and we're being asked to do even more now with police reform to be more accountable and to make sure we are doing for the community what is the best practices and being as accountable as we can be. And I would hate to see us go backwards on that. We've worked very hard to be open out front and try to be a leader in this community and this county. And right now, we're the only ones accredited in this county. We're one of only 4 in Western Mass. So I would hate to see us lose what we've worked pretty hard for.
Chief, can I ask you a question?
So thank you. Of course.
In your presentation to us, you were talking about architectural plans to reuse space. And I want to be very clear that we've gotten phone calls and we've gotten emails from people. And what I want to point out is, respectfully, this is about a capital project, which means that you are either maintaining a building or you are replacing what already exists. It's really not the same issue as community policing. I want to separate those two out, that we're being asked. These are 2 different things. I think that the operating budget piece is another place for that type of discussion to happen. Right now, capital is about basic changes that have to happen in order to sustain the building and the department structurally. So I want to point that out to people. You mentioned that in order to be able to reuse the space, you would need the services of an architect. And are you estimating at this time what that piece would be?
I haven't seen anything less than 50 grand, and it wouldn't shock me if it's as much as 100 for what we're planning on doing.
Okay.
We have a building right now that was a doctor's office.
Right, I remember. Yeah,
you know,
I remember going there.
We have several female officers now, and our female officer population is growing, and that's fantastic. But I'm going to tell you right now, we have our first female supervisor, which is awesome. And she doesn't have a locker room like the male officers have. That's an issue. That's an issue. We have a supervisor's male locker room. I don't have a supervisor female locker room. You know, that's a problem. We are maxed out in our female locker room. They have the smallest locker room in our building. We're a progressive department. We are looking to expand our equity and equality of our department, and we're right now saying that that's not important to us. Well, it's important to me, and it's important to the women that work for me, and we're going in a great direction, and we want to continue that and expand that, and we want to have a department that more represents the community that we serve, and that's our goal, and we're going to continue to do that. So we need to adjust our building to support that as well. We need to support the people that are there. We have done over the years, and I know you as the former mayor know what kind of readjustments we have made to that building that weren't necessarily what we wanted to do, but what the best we could do. We've moved walls. We have air conditioning and heating units going into places that aren't, quite honestly, where they're supposed to be. But we've done the best we could over time. We've outgrown that. We have a cell block and a security area in there with booking that is completely unsafe for not only officers, but the people that we're bringing in there. I mean, the folks that are coming in there don't want to be there, trust me, but we also don't want to create a situation where anybody's going to get hurt one way or the other. The whole idea about being accredited, while I understand there isn't a dollar value that we can say that you're getting for it, it's a dollar value that we're preventing, hopefully, the town from getting when we get sued for doing something that we shouldn't do because we never address the issues that we have. Our cell block right now doesn't pass inspection every year. We get a letter every year saying that you're grandfathered, but we want you to know it doesn't pass inspection. Just because we're grandfathered doesn't mean we shouldn't address this. So these are the things that would need to be addressed going forward.
By the way, Chief, I read the headline in the newspaper today, and I want to commend you on now having the means cooperating. I think it's with CSO to have someone who's well versed in mental health issues be part of your operation. So I think that was a very good thing. I hope that does help a lot of people, and I thank you very much.
No, I appreciate that, and we are applying for a grant for a second position, and CSO has been great to kind of jumpstart this with us on the beginning of it. But at the end of the day, I mean, we're not swimming in police officers. We don't have all these extra police officers running around out there. So it's great that we can collaborate with this, because at the end of the day, we are dealing with a ton of mental health, and it's going to be great to have CSO with us and in our building. I mean, we're doing it with 2 other towns, and I appreciate their support as well for this. And we're hoping to grow this, and that this will be a permanent part of the Greenfield PD. And we'll have people on more than just the original shifts that we're starting with. We're hoping to grow that into extras. So thank you for the acknowledgement. But I want to say that we've had a lot of support from all these agencies working together, and we understand it, and we absolutely want to do this.
Thank you, Chief. I'm going to turn back to members of the committee. If there's more comment or discussion, I think now is the appropriate time.
May I ask the chief a couple more questions? I didn't
certainly.
finish
Go right ahead.
The last time.
I'm still here.
No, thank you. And I definitely appreciate all of your work and want everybody to be in a good, safe environment. I just, first, how much do the locker rooms cost? And the salary?
Well, that's the issue right now is we need an architect to redesign it, because we don't have any space for it. This means that we're going to be tearing down walls, moving them, shifting them. We're going to have to do that, and we only have so many places for bathrooms. You got to understand that building was built on a slab. We have a very tiny basement space, so most of the plumbing and everything else was done at the beginning when they were building this building at the beginning of time. Our basement doesn't cover the entire building, so we need somebody else to come in and design what we're going to need to support these things.
So I'm concerned about triggering with what we're doing. Okay. Sometimes when you do part of a building, you then trigger whatever it is that you have to do, a total ADA compliant, a total this and a total that. I don't want anybody to be unsafe.
Absolutely.
And I'm concerned because, well, for a couple of reasons, but that's a big part of it. We don't know exactly what this is going to be. We can't break it down and say we need this. It's to make this the entranceway safe, and to do this is safe. And then if you do so much of the renovations, then you have to do the whole building. And I actually kind of remember when we were looking at, when everyone was asking us, I think I remember this a little differently than everybody else, but it's probably my head, that could wait a little bit because we don't know what one thing is really going to cost yet. So do you feel like the architect should come in and just look at this first before we're voting for?
Well, who's going to pay for the architect to come in for 50 to 100 grand? Because it's not going to be me. I don't have it in my budget. But I can just tell you this: there's other projects that right now, I understand what you're saying about if you touch certain things, you're going to have to touch a lot of things. That's what you're paying an architect to tell you. This is what we need to do right now for accreditation. I can tell you right now for accreditation, I don't have to touch a cell block right now because we're grandfathered. Again, not good. You don't want to have somebody come in and tell you you've got suicide issues in your cell block, but we're grandfathering you in, so it's a good idea to ignore it. I don't agree with that. You're telling me I've got a problem there. We should be addressing that, right? I mean, because I can tell you this, if something happens, this is what I'm talking about, the liability. If something happens, they're going to ask me for all those papers that I put in there every single year that says you're grandfathered, but we let you know there was a problem. You didn't address it. That's your problem. The state's not going to come in and give you a waiver for that. The state's going to say, we told Chief Haig every single year. Well, every single year we look at it and say, okay, we don't have any money to address that. So I agree with you. If we have to touch that section of the building, we're touching the whole building. That's one of them. But that's what I think the architect comes in for. And we say, this is what we have for X amount of money right now. These are the things I need to address first year, accreditation only. I need these things done. This is the pot of money. What can we do with it? And then we look at what we can do for the final 2 years based on it. Now, if they tell us that it's X amount of dollars to do first year for accreditation and everything else, but then they say, listen, we can't do it in these 2 breakdowns the next 2 years, that's what they get paid for. That's what they're going to tell us. And then I come back to you next year at the council and I say, this is what they gave us for a plan. We can't do it in 3 stages. We can only do it in 2 because we did do something to the building that is now going to require us to go full board and deal with a whole lot of issues. I'm looking at a short amount of money right now to deal with accreditation, the architect to give us the plan for a 3-year layout, and then we work from there. I think if you say, okay, we're going to give you $100,000 this year, Chief, just to do the architect, we're going to lose our accreditation. We're going to have to go through this again. And we've worked too hard as a city, as a community. We're being asked now as the police to do more than we've ever done and be more accountable and transparent than we've ever been, but we don't want to support you. I understand that's a view of some, and I'm okay with that. We nationally, in certain circumstances, have earned that. I don't think we've earned that in Greenfield. I think we're trying to do the best we can to make sure nationally doesn't come to Greenfield. We're not perfect, but we're going to continue to do that. But I don't think setting us back for monetary purposes is the right way to approach it. That's all I'm saying. And I understand your concerns, Counselor, and I appreciate it. You are the ones that are controlling, the financial best interest for the community, and I thank you for doing it. But I'd hate to see us go backwards because of that.
I have one other question that are you aware of any other police departments in Massachusetts that have lost their accreditation for building?
Honestly, no, I don't know. I couldn't tell you that. I could probably do some research and ask some questions, but I've never reached out and asked that question, no. I can tell you that there's certain accreditation issues when they come in and look, what aren't going to pass next time. I can tell you that because, they come to our building and they went around and they did what they did. A couple of them are, again, security issues that I'm not going to go into on the exterior of the building, but yeah, I can tell you the things that they told us to look out for the next time. I mean, we know that, but that's just for us. I don't know about other places. Just because you get accreditation once, doesn't mean you keep it forever. I can tell you that. It's a three-year review, and they're starting to go towards talks about being able to backdoor in, and instead of waiting for year 3, they'll be able to do constant accreditation now virtually, and that'll be even more challenging for departments because you're going to have to make sure you're up on it every single day, which is what accreditation is supposed to be anyway. We self-assess all the time.
Councilor DeSorgi, you okay? Any further questions? Okay, I would like to. I'd like to propose something. I'm not sure. I think the committee needs to discuss it. I would like to make a friendly amendment that we reduce the asking amount to $1 million. So the 350 we would remove from the borrowing piece. And that would be the amendment. I don't know if it's friendly or not. That would be the amendment. It might be a compromise piece, but I would need a second if we were going to discuss, and then we'd have to take a vote. So I am making a motion that we reduce the amount to $1 million. And for purposes of discussion, I need a second.
I'll second.
Okay. Is it something that this committee, I know people have been one way or the other, but I know that there are also people that are still trying to make up their minds. So is there any interest in voting this amendment forward, or is everybody interested in just voting on what the mayor has requested for the operating, for the capital budget?
Councilor Forgy, may I ask you a question on your amendment? And Director Gilman.
I hope it's correct. I don't know. We don't have a parliamentarian here, but go right ahead.
I'm certainly no parliamentarian, but we, after the things that we're, what's left in, what will be left in capital stabilization and what will be left in stabilization after all the things that we took out?
I don't have an answer to that question.
No, that's why I was going with Director Gilman, because I thought maybe there's a different way to fund it without borrowing, because I just think we're borrowing. So borrowing and borrowing. We put 500,000 in regular stabilization. We put 600,000 in capital stabilization, and I lost track of what we're taking out.
Right. So on the presentation that I can send out, so you have it, that I did the other night, I had done what was left in each, if everything was voted as presented. In capital stabilization, there would be 315,682 left if everything was voted as presented. General stabilization, which we're trying not to go there. General stabilization has 2,142,000, and we're trying to get up higher. So, and I will point out that the mayor actually had broken this 1,350,000 apart. That 100 was coming from capital stabilization and 1,250,000 was borrowed on the order.
Could you say that again?
Sure. The 1,350,000,
Mm-hmm.
1,250,000 was borrowing, and 100 was coming from capital stabilization.
Okay.
Okay, I could go for the million if we took $200,000 more dollars out of capital.
Well, you're going to kind of deplete it, which is where we've been the past few years. But, you know, you could make that amendment.
Well, that's amending an amendment. I don't even know.
Yeah, it is. It is. And we can stay here all night doing that. I mean, okay. So we're having, I guess the question, and I understand what Ginny's saying. Are there any other funding sources that we could use so that we borrow $1 million this year and we fund from other sources? I guess that's the bigger question at this point.
Are you just speaking for this year?
I am, because I know what the
Okay.
request is going to be next year and the year after. Yeah, I do know that. It's because of revenue pieces right now, and it's because of rise of tax rates, and it's because of COVID. So I'm just trying to figure that out.
Well, if you reduced it to $1 million, which currently there's only 1,250,000 being borrowed. So that means you're going to take another 250 out of capital, which is only going to leave 50,000 in capital.
That would be, I'm sorry, that would be capital, that would be the capital stabilization.
Capital stabilization, right.
Okay. Okay.
We tried not to deplete capital, sorry, but we tried not to deplete capital stabilization because we know we have upcoming years. and we know that our free cash will not be as high as it was this current year. I think I did speak about having the focus in future years go to capital stabilization because it's an obvious need as we sit through all these meetings.
Right.
The only other thing, I keep thinking about down the road for maybe year 3 of the PD is that when the library is finally bonded, there will be bond premium from that. And that could help out significantly with that project, possibly. I'm just throwing it out that should be a larger number.
Mm-hmm. Ed, did you want to comment? And then John?
Yeah, I just had a quick question. I hate to make Liz think this hard this late at night. Now that she hasn't, she's probably been thinking hard all day. So I just have a suspicion that the impact on the taxpayer between $1 million and $1.35 million isn't really that great. I mean, is my philosophy wrong in that thinking? I mean,
no, because generally this will be over 10 years since it's a minor building, well, not minor, but a building repair. I don't think it'll go 20 years. So yeah, it becomes part of, and it becomes part of the operating budget. As debt comes off, debt goes on. So in essence, it's not an override. It's not a debt exclusion.
Mm-hmm.
So, which does add to the tax rate. So, I don't think it's as much that point as just, what I'm hearing from Councilor DeSorger and Councilor Forgy is the amount of borrowing that I'm hearing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I don't really think.
Go ahead, Liz. I'm sorry.
Yep. Go ahead, Liz.
So, I don't think the only other point I will make is that it is wise, as Director Warner came to you mid-year because he needed a boiler repair or, something breaks that we don't know about, you have to leave something in capital stabilization for that. That's what happened this past year when we had to go to stabilization. I think it was Councilor Gwynn who mentioned, we never go to general stabilization this much. Well, because we had depleted capital stabilization. We had to go there. So that would be my only thing is that and I did encourage, the mayor in trying to leave a certain amount in capital stabilization for the next year. And for unknowns.
Right.
Okay, so my point was my point that I was just trying to get some clarification, and I guess I did, was that the difference between $1 million and $1.35 million is no big hit on the taxpayers. It's no big reduction on the taxpayers. It's just the amount of money that we're going to be borrowing over the debt.
I'm just going to clarify that it's $250 because the mayor has $1,250,000 being borrowed.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah, I keep on saying $350, $1,250,000. The $250,000 isn't going to be it doesn't take a big whack out of it's not going to cut everybody's tax rate by 10 cents per.
No.
Okay. All right. That was just my point.
John, you're next, and then Doug.
Yeah, I just want to make it clear, I'm not opposed to this. I think these are needed, but the questions are the unknowns. And it's really important because we've got an unknown expenses with the temporary fire station. We have unknown expenses with the permanent fire station. We have unknown expenses with the library. Those are 3 huge projects. So it's not just this funding. It's all that put together. And if I'm correct, we're borrowed to the max. So, and we obviously cannot pull a whole lot from stabilization, as we're finding out here, because that would completely deplete stabilization. So the only way we can do this is to borrow, which we're doing extensively. And the taxpayers are going to come back to us if suddenly, say, the fire station, we need to find a new location. There's millions involved with that. I'm just asking for time. Is there a way to fund the design of this so that we have more information and we have more solidity on what's going on with the 3 projects, major projects we have going on right now, so that next year we have more information?
The only way to do that is to, in my mind anyway, submit a second order, because you could either reduce this one and submit a new one, or table this one and submit a new one for the design. That's the only thing I can think of. And you know, until a time certain or something to that effect, but you still need the design, and you're still going to need the funding to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yes.
So I think in a way, you're just postponing the inevitable. It's not like you cannot do this. And I know it's frustrating because I do hear what you're saying exactly. But sometimes you just got to keep moving forward. Is another thought I have is that in order to make progress, you just got to keep moving forward. We can't. In life, there's so much that can be unknown. You know, who would have thought a pandemic? Come on, everybody.
True. You're right. You're right. Doug, did you have John, are you all set?
Yes.
I just had, John, are you finished?
Yes.
Go
Okay.
ahead, Doug.
Thinking about moving forward, and that's a good statement to make. Liz, can you tell me again how much money we have in general stabilization?
We have general stabilization. We have 2,142,622. You had just voted 500,000 in last March. We
Okay.
voted in 600 into capital, but we're utilizing some of that through these orders as presented.
We're using part of the money that we're
Capital, yeah.
how much are we using how much will be left over? I mean, is there any wiggle room between what the police department is asking and the general stabilization?
Well, we have a policy of not using the general stabilization for this, but we ended up depleting our capital. So either way, you're going to either deplete the capital or go into the general stabilization. Almost depleted. I'm not going to say complete. You know, I think, do you want to hear from the chief again to what would happen with $1 million?
Chief, do you want to comment on that?
I am still here.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. I mean, one of the things that I guess I can add is one of the reasons, and you know, I got an email from another counselor today looking for very specific information on certain things. One of the reasons I don't have these things right now is we've been in a discussion about having a public safety complex this entire time. It wasn't until recently that we were excluded from the public safety complex. So, you know, at that point, I was, to be honest with you, kind of hoping that we wouldn't have to worry about our building and what we would have to do going forward. $1 million, again, I'm hoping that the $50,000 to $100,000 will give me what I need to do to make sure that the building will be, you know, documented well for the next 3 years of what we have to do. I can work with $1 million, I hope. I don't know. I mean, the things that I'm looking for up front, in my mind, are accreditation issues and to address the locker room issues and equity and equality issues within our building. Dispatch is going to be a huge undertaking. We are getting involved with the state now for an 800 radio system that at some point we will not have to pay our radio bills anymore, which I know Councilor Jarvis knows this. Those aren't cheap for police and fire. We're hoping that those will go away in a couple of years. But to do that and to convert that dispatch center into what it really should be and what these folks that answer our first line people are answering these calls in that room, those are my priorities. The dispatch center, the adjustment of locker rooms for equality and equity, and our security issues, which again, I apologize for being really vague on those, but I don't think me telling you what's wrong with our place right now is the right thing to do publicly. What we need to do for those reasons. Those are my priority in this upcoming year. That's what I would do. So if you're feeling $1 million is more comfortable, I will figure out how to make that work. I'm just taking a guess because obviously that's why I need to hire somebody. I would think with certain parts of that, I'm not sure about dispatch, but certain parts of that can be handled with that. Dispatch is going to require some major construction inside our building because the radio equipment needs to be moved. The radio equipment has to be in a room that is climate controlled. We have a very, very tiny climate control room. I welcome any counselor that wants to come walk the building with me. I would be more than happy to point out 99% of what we need to do, with the exception of the few little things that obviously I don't want out there, but I'd be more than happy to have anybody come down and walk around with me. But those are some of the things that need to be done in my mind up front right away.
I would just point out if you're talking $1 million, you would still have the 100 from capital, so it would be a grand total of $1.1 million.
Yes.
Okay, just want to clarify.
Yes. Yes.
So may I, Councilor Forgy, I just am having a hard time with this because a year ago, everyone was saying that we didn't need a public safety complex. Like, are we making like the biggest mistake of the century here? If we are, I don't want to vote for it. So we moved to a parking lot, or we're moving to a parking lot. Everyone told us before, like, this is okay. Chief, I love our police officers. I want you to be in a safe environment. I don't want people in a dispatch center that's sounds like a closet. But I don't want to be part of a fib. And that bothers me. I have a really hard time with that. I have a hard time with
Councilor, with all due respect, I don't know where the fib is. We were part of a discussion for a public safety complex for the last several years. And it's been determined that financially the fire department is the way to go, and I'm fine with that. I want our firefighters to have the best. But that's why we didn't really plan on anything right now, and that's why I don't have hard figures for you right now, because it was part of this year's discussion.
I'd like to apologize and take my mouth back, okay, which is hard to undo. It's my mouth, and it opened and said that. I certainly didn't mean that you were part of a fib. That sounded terrible. And so I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that at all, like towards you. And now I can't unsay what I just said, but I think you know me well enough to know what I meant was that if we really
I am exceptionally okay. Do not worry about that.
I'm so sorry, because now I'm like hating myself, and I wish that I never spoke, but I did. And
don't do that. Don't do that. I've been doing this job a long time, Counselor. I'm good.
Okay. So I want everybody to be in a safe place, but I have to vote on things, and so I'm listening, and I'm thinking this is really sounding like, well, we're about to make the biggest mistake of the century here. And why didn't everybody tell me that? I mean, I get in and everybody says it's going to cost this much for a fire station. That's not really the truth. And then, and I don't mean, and so, I'm going to try to wash my mouth again. Okay. So we hear that it's going to be a certain amount. It's not. And now I thought everybody was okay, and we didn't really need a public safety complex. And now I thought, well, if we do, then then, and nobody's telling a fib. I don't want to say the wrong thing, but now I feel like I don't want to be voting on something that's kind of half of whatever it is. I'm like an OSHA person. I'm a nurse. I want everybody to be breathing clean air and to be safe. And I lived in Shelburne for 10 months and looked at where prisoners were brought in there, and I thought I could imagine a movie being, maybe I shouldn't have said their name either, but I could imagine a movie being made out of what happened when the arrest went bad in the movie theater across from the clerk's office. So I don't want anybody to be in an unsafe position. I also don't want to be voting for things that is a bad, if it was a bad plan to begin with, why didn't I know that? So, and that's not your fault, Chief, and I'm sorry for anything that I said that came out wrong.
Thank you. I think Liz really spoke to the issue, which is the borrowing piece. John did too. It's the borrowing piece. It's how much do we borrow? It's, where's the plan kind of deal. So I understand that. To me, it is a money piece. It's also making the connection between the need and the money. So if anybody else would like to comment, because I'm going to call, since we had a second, I'm going to call on people to vote whether they want to amend the amount or not. And Ed, I see you. And if they want to amend the amount or not, or if Ginny withdraws her second, I can withdraw the motion if people do not want to vote on it. Ed, go ahead.
Yeah, I just swatted a bug too. There's a
okay,
little fly that's in front of me, bugging the crap out of me. Bugging the daylights out of me. I guess if you say it, you can't take it back in a web meeting, right?
Okay.
So anyway, so I did. That's what I wanted to get straight. So we're voting on the amendment for $1 million, and 100,000 would come out of general stabilization. That's what we're going to be voting on, correct? Because that's the way the order was written.
Liz, could you talk to that, please? Because we'd be voting $1 million, and then there's $100,000 that's coming out of stabilization, capital stabilization.
Can Liz hear us?
Liz?
On mute. You just stated it correctly. $1 million from borrowing and 100,000 from capital stabilization. So it's a $1.1 million total.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that was straight before we were voting. Okay.
John, go ahead.
I have a procedural question.
Yes.
Do we have to vote on this amendment first, or could I move to table?
As soon as you say move to table, we're done.
I move to table.
Okay. So that takes care of that motion. Then what brings forward, what we do now is, what I think we do now is, is vote on the motion as it is. Unless you are saying you're going to you want to move to table the motion, that is the full dollar amount.
That would be my intention, the full dollar amount. So do we wait to do that until after this amendment is voted on?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other piece is, if you're going to table it, I'm questioning that. You're requesting to table so that the full council gets to weigh in on this discussion.
I just don't know that I have enough information. I mean, I would be in support of a design going forward, but I feel like we're making up numbers now. So it's either we do a part of it or we do the whole thing. But I'm not sure that I feel like picking an arbitrary number, because I feel like if we get into the whole thing, it's also, you're kind of voting for a multi-year, multi-million-dollar funding.
Okay.
I don't want it to necessarily completely die, but I don't feel that I don't have the information on how much a design element would cost, which I think I know I could vote for.
Okay, so what I hear you saying is if you move to table, and technically you already have, but I'm just saying if you move to table, then hang on just a second. I might get if somebody has parliamentary procedure out there. If we move to table this, then basically what we will be doing is there will be another. I've set aside another piece of time for us 5:30 before our council meeting where we could bring this off the table and deliberate again. But we do have to have a recommendation on capital going one way or the other out to council floor for the next meeting, I think. So, having said that, you want to table the whole thing, but we have another motion out there. So, Ginny, do you want to withdraw your motion and I will withdraw mine? Your second?
I'll withdraw mine.
Okay, and I'll withdraw my motion. So now we're back to, after we've had that whole discussion, now we're back to the motion on the table. Hi, Ed. I know you're laughing. And we have John Bottomley, please go ahead. You move to table.
I move to table.
Okay, the whole motion that for the $1,350,000. Okay, there's no discussion on that on the table part. So we move on to the next item on our agenda. Thank you, and thank you for all bearing with me because it gets a little crazy. Okay. The next item on our agenda is to appropriate $200,000 for replacement of a water dump truck. Is there a second?
Second, Mayo.
Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor of that motion, indicate by raising your hand and saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. On to the next one. Appropriate $25,000 for water rate study, assess management, and emergency response. Is there a second?
Second, Mayo.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the next item.
Councillor Forgy.
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
sorry to interrupt. I believe that on the table we needed a second and a vote.
On a table item? No,
I think so.
It's non-debatable, but I think that I think it's a non-debatable motion, and I will second John's motion if the others agree. Do you agree that Councilor Jarvis that we needed to do it that way? I believe.
Okay, that's okay. So we have a motion to table by Councilor Bottomley, a second by Councilor DeSorga. All those in favor of table?
Aye.
So indicate. Okay. All those opposed?
No.
Okay, that's Doug. Okay.
Ed.
Ed, thank you. Okay, so it is tabled. Okay. Thank you, folks. I'm just not clear on parliamentary procedure, so I think we've covered all the bases. All right, here we go.
The 91, Chris.
Yeah. Okay. Appropriate $91,000 for wastewater treatment plant electrical upgrades. Is there a second?
Second. Second, Mayo.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, so indicate. Aye. Raise your hand. Okay. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you all. Thank you all very much for your diligence, your patience. I know this meeting got started later. I apologize for that once more. I do want to announce that we will be meeting tomorrow evening again. That's Thursday, April 15th, 2021 at 5:30. This time we're going to start with our review of operating budgets. And we will be, first up on the agenda will be the mayor and the finance departments for the city, and we look forward to that. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Jarvis.
Second.
Second, Mayo.
Disorder.
Okay, this meeting, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, we close at 8 o'clock. Thank you all very much for your due diligence and your hard work and your discussion.